Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining today on today's webinar, which is all around the topic of project ideation to delivery. Just before we start, just a little reminder that everybody will be on mute while the speakers are presenting, just to ensure that we have no interruptions throughout. Don't worry, the recording will be also made, so we'll share that with everyone post today's webinar. We'll also try to make this webinar as interactive as possible so we can collaborate with each other. So we'll have some interactive sessions throughout. So please do have your mobile phones to hand. And any questions that you have throughout today's webinar, please feel free to drop any questions you have into our Q&A session, and we'll hopefully answer all questions at the end of today's Q&A. Just a short introduction to myself. My name is Ian Tracy. I'm one of the business development managers here at Aspira. And again, I just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day today to join us on today's webinar. Just a little bit around who we are here at Aspira. We've been founded back in 2007, and we provide tailored expertise, to meet our clients' needs. So that could be anything from advisory to training to business and tech resourcing, right down to intelligent applications, otherwise known as, software development and business intelligence applications as well. Just a little brief overview of our history to date in terms of our journey to where we are as a business. Founded again back in 2007 by Pat Lucy and Colin Horgan. We quickly grew as a business and landing some really good names along the way. Some well-known brands such as PepsiCo, Leia Healthcare, Allianz, Booking.com, just to name a few. We did open our first offices here in Dublin back in 2013, and then we expanded it even more so by opening our what is today our headquarters here in Ireland in Cork, and announcing 100 jobs along the way. As a business, our real highlight as a company was through the period of 2016 to 2022, where we had 4 times growth as a business, and really some exciting news for us as Aspira and also our clients is we joined forces in late 2022 with the Imagine Group as well, which is really good news. Just to kind of give you an overview of who the Imagine Group are for those who probably never heard of them before. Really exciting news. Imagine are headquartered in Copenhagen in Denmark. And at the end of 2022, they had a total revenue of 446 million. They do also provide a large amount of consultants, over 4,500 consultants to date, serving over 550 clients around the globe. With these 23 offices that Imagine have as a business and the 3 nearshore and 1 offshore centres as well, this does really give us excitement that we can, expand and be more flexible in terms of how our clients want to interact with us at Aspira and Imagine today. This combination as a whole has really, Aspira, part of the Imagine Group, which you'll see here, has really given us that more opportunity to expand our footprint, our global footprint, in terms of how clients, deal with us and where they deal with us from. So we have a range of offices and bases around Europe, now standing at 28 with this merging of the Imagine and Aspira. Again, really exciting to have the option of 3 nearshore, 1 offshore, around 11 different countries. So that's really us. That's enough from me for the moment. I just want to thank you all. I will now pass you over to my colleague Damien Kearns, who's going to today present us the really exciting and important information of today's webinar. Over to you, Damien.
Thanks very much, Ian. Thanks guys for coming today. Just give you a little bit of background on me. My name is Damien Kearns. I'm at Aspire about 10 years. My background is working as a BA and a project manager. I'm after seeing some of the people on the list who I worked with, so I'll say a big hello to you. And I've been running advisory for the last 4.5-5 years. Advisory or professional services in Aspire is based around the people, process, PMO and strategy. And on the people side, we offer particular services, process improvement services, and PMO structure, setup and strategy services. All of these are really about providing solutions to clients as we go along, and we try to tailor our offerings as we move forward. So just in relation to the concept of today's webinar, and it was something that was brought up to us to talk about how do we actually go from an idea to delivering a really good project at the end of it. And we kind of broke it out into the following areas, so that we thought about the concept of ideation as something that's about creating an environment, but also creating valuable ideas. And then we talked about the concept of discovery, which is taking those ideas and analysing them at a high enough level that you know that they're worth going forward with. And then we also talked about the concept of going into delivery, and that there's so many different methodologies and approaches that it can be quite confusing, and how do you go about choosing the right one? And then the final piece in the puzzle for us always is people. And you may have the people, you may not have the people, but how do you go about making sure that you've got the right people delivering the right projects at the right time? The contents of today will be ideation and why should we. From ideation, then moving to discovery, then how to go about and picking your correct project management methodology, then looking at the people side and thinking about the correct resource management model for you. And then at the end, we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A. When we think about ideation, and we think about why should we bother, why should we do it at all? And as Thomas Edison said, there's a way to do it better, find it. And we're constantly trying to evolve and bring on new ideas, and what better place to do it than in your own organization. Where if you can have your phones ready, guys, because what we're going to do now is we're going to use a little bit of a virtual tool called Mentimeter. And Mentimeter, you can just use the QR code facility on your phone, and you can scan the QR code and it'll bring you to a couple of questions. Or you can go to menti.com and use the code 47144360. And I'm going to hand over to Ian now, and we're going to have a look at a couple of Menti questions. And hopefully you're all logged on to this now. Do you feel your organization is losing out on good internal ideas? Do you feel that maybe people don't talk about the ideas? Maybe there isn't a process for structuring them? And if you could just give me some answers there, guys, on yes, no, or maybe, just to get a gauge of how the ideation works in your organization. Currently, at the moment, we're starting to see the yeses go ahead a little bit further. If we can get a couple of more votes in there, because I do realize there's a lot of people on this. Okay. General overall feeling at the moment is that maybe you're not maximizing on the good internal ideas that might be in your organization. I'm going to give it another couple of seconds there and try maybe get a couple of more votes. Interesting to see that some people already have a good idea internal process and feel that no is there, and some people don't even know if there is a process. Okay, guys, that's very good. We have a couple of questions to get through. So Ian, what we might do is we might go on to the next question, please. In your organization, are there processes in place for the easy capture of ideas? If you come up with a brainwave after your cup of coffee in the morning or after your lunchtime walk, is it really easy for you to go somewhere and go, do you know what? I have a brilliant idea. The no's have it at the moment. Okay, that's interesting. Be interesting to expand on the maybes, and be interesting to see what the yeses are saying about a good way to capture good ideas. And the no's have it in the end. Ian, if we could go on to the next question, please. Now, here's a controversial one. Is it okay to talk about problems or issues in your company? Is it okay to say that something is wrong and something is broken and we need to do something about it? In some organizations, that's seen as being overtly negative, but I'm talking about problems that can turn into opportunities. It's a good positive response in the yes. I like that. I like an organization that you're free to speak freely. Okay, very good. Okay, so the yeses win, which is excellent. So on to the next question, please, Ian. Do you feel your personal idea would be considered for further discovery? So if you had a really good idea, do you think it's going to go anywhere, or is it just going to go into a bucket that might be dealt with later? The maybes are winning at the moment. Okay, so our last question. Do you feel that there is a culture of listening to people's views and ideas in your organization? That you won't be shut down, that it's not poo-pooed, that it's okay to talk about concepts and ideas? And a lot of people are saying maybe, because they're not too sure if it does exist. They have to test the water. Okay. Very good, guys. So I think the maybes have it on that one. So Ian, I'm going to go on to the last question now, which is, do you think you would be rewarded for providing good ideas? So what's the incentive do you feel in your organization to give a good idea and a concept? No, maybe, not sure. The no's have it. Oh dear. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. So even though you have very good ideas, you don't know if there's a structured reward process there. It could possibly exist, it may not exist, but the overriding answer is no. So even though you have the culture, there may not be the reward system to help you do it. Okay, thanks very much for helping us there with just a couple of questions to get us tuned into what ideation is about. So now let's actually jump into it. So when we're actually looking at the whole area of ideation, we need to talk about what it is, why do we need it, what are the benefits of it, how do we create the environment for it, and how we ideate by using ideation tools and techniques and how to capture ideas. If we were to position ourselves in a way that we wanted to create the culture and create the ideation, we would need to think about it in a process way. And my business analyst head on me would talk about it as a particular process. We've got as such 3 areas that we're going to focus on today. So we're going to talk about the creating the ideas and how we actually go about evaluating them, to going into discovery and then moving into delivery. And at its core, ideation is about idea and creation, and it leads to innovation. Ideation is there to help us make improvements to existing products or services, and it's also there to create a process of generating and developing new ideas and communicating them really well. Why would we go about doing it? So why do we actually need it? So any ideation program, process or initiative can be a fantastic way to surface some very smart ideas from your people. If a team member's brainwave is implemented as a project, it can deliver great value to the business through cost savings, improved client service, and the introduction of new offerings. Or other softer benefits can be team engagement or helping to build a more collaborative and innovative organizational culture. So what it does for us is that ideation will help us empower a team. It goes hand in hand with innovation and allows us and all participants' voices to be heard. And in that way, it can help turn a problem, and as I talked about earlier, the whole concept of are we free to talk about problems, into real opportunities. And it focuses on the aspects that really matter to the end user. We're going to talk about a couple of examples of why ideation is such a positive and a good thing. So companies who generally listen to employees can be more profitable and can be more competitive. So here's a couple of inspiring stories as such. So one of the first companies we'll talk about is Uber Eats. They used ideation, and within their own internal designer team, were able to create a driver app which ensured smoother delivery process. Airbnb have ideation as part of their culture, and in particular build experimentation into the company. Another great product, Gmail, highlights the process of ideation, and this was developed by Google employees during their built-in innovation time. Amazon. So a team of Amazon employees formulated the Prime idea, believing that customers would pay more to be part of an exclusive membership that gave them 2-day delivery. Prime now generates up to 19 billion per year. And if we talk about our favorite building block, Legoland or Lego, in Legoland, the staff saw that children were getting frustrated queuing and parents were getting frustrated with their children. So a couple of employees came up with the idea of placing tables with Lego pieces in the center in the waiting lines, and children could play and change the customer experience completely. And then Xerox. So Xerox were looking to how they could become a greener company. So they decided to turn their employees for a solution. And as a result, packaging for coloured ink was created from 100% post-consumer recycled material and altering the rate at which ink was printed onto paper. So ideation really helps businesses. And now let's look at the whole area of how do we create the environment for ideation and how do we go about doing that. So we need to look at a couple of items. So we need to look at what is the challenge or problem that we're trying to solve. We need to define the problem. We need to define objectives. When is the right time? Okay, so the right time is generally going to be after a specific problem definition. And who do we need to involve? So it's really important at this stage to do some stakeholder mapping or to really understand the people who are going to be affected by this idea. And then how do we actually go about ideating? So there's some general steps, right? So you need a roadmap and rules for your process. There's a structure on it. You need some level of mechanism for feedback, and you can use different sorts of KPIs for measuring success. So including the percentage of employees that participated, the percentage of submitted ideas, the percentage of likes, the percentage of contribution, or the percentage of comment to gauge what you feel is a good, successful process. Some simple ground rules, right? And I know this is difficult, but there are actually no bad ideas. You need to let people express them. You need to capture and log everything. And we're looking for quantity over quality as well, right? So more ideas, the better. And give feedback as quickly as possible. The don'ts. Don't come unprepared. Do have your idea fleshed out in some shape or form. Don't welcome chaos. It can't be a free for all. We need a structure and a process on this. And don't criticize other ideas. So try not to break down other people's ideas before they've got to the end of them. And don't forget to record every single idea. And if we were to talk about how we actually combine ideation by using various different tools and techniques, let's put another structure on it. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to provide background information into the problem and the situation. And then we need some level of problem definition. And then we need idea generation. And there's a multiple of tools and techniques that are out there that we can use, that we're showing you some of them here. Mentimeter is actually one of them, the tools that you can use, but there's lots of different ways you can actually get your idea out there. And then once you have your idea in there, you need to go through an idea selection process. So then on top of that, look at the advantages and disadvantages of your different ideas, look at any critical concerns or risks, and then we've got an action plan or implementation, and then we could potentially be ready to move into discovery. Let's talk about it a little bit more. So we've got all this data that we've collected, we've got people engaged, we need to capture all these ideas into an idea log. We need to take the time then to present them back to the team and review them and assess them against particular criteria. And the criteria might be, for example, does it solve a problem? Does it save money? Does it fundamentally change the company's place in the market? Does it, give us set one of our objectives? Does it help us in a particular way? And then we need to make a decision, okay? So we can make the decision in a couple of different ways. So we can make the decision by democracy, through clustering ideas that are the same together, through discussion, and then making a final decision. And now we're at the point whereby we've created an ideation culture, we've brought people along, people are free to speak, and we've analysed some ideas as they've come to us. And then we're going to head into project discovery. And again, before we go into this, and discovery is basically taking a high-level view of project ideas and putting them into a shape and form that we can assess them before we blow them into full-on projects. So what we're going to do here now is Ian is going to be sharing the screen again now in a second, and we're going to be using the same Mentimeter code. You can use the same QR code, and Ian, I'm going to hand back over to you now. So we're talking about discovery phase, right? So I'm assuming a lot of you guys work within the project world, and is the phrase discovery, and in some cases it's called feasibility too, right? A defined step before projects are kicked off in your organization. So thankfully, there seems to be a lot of people saying yes, which is brilliant. And in some cases, no. Some people aren't sure, which is a maybe. And it's probably project dependent as well. Not every project is going to have discovery. And in some cases, we have the Nike approach to project management, which is just do it. This is not always the best case. Okay, the yeses are pushing ahead. That's positive. Okay. Ian, if we could go on to the next question, please. Do you feel it's an important step and approach to take? Do you actually think it's necessary? Do you think it's overkill? Okay, sometimes maybe yes. Okay, that's good. I think it's the final question then, Ian, please. So this is more of an open text kind of question. If you're doing discovery, what do you actually think are the important things that you need to have within your discovery piece? So is it just high-level risks? Is it estimations? Is it KPIs? Okay, the importance level, any challenges, any risks? So yeah, good to see the outcomes. What are we trying to deliver here? And what I'm going to do now, Ian, is I'm going to go back into sharing, and we'll leave it there. So thanks, guys. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about discovery. We've formulated some ideas. We've selected our key ideas, and we're in the process now of helping us define which is the best one to pursue. And within that, well, we need to look at some of the topics we're going to cover today. So what is the discovery phase? Why do we need the discovery phase? What are the benefits? And what are the deliverables? So in our step through process, we have now gone through the ideation phase. We are now in discovery phase. And before we get into the whole delivery module, and what does that look like for us? So really, there was a report done on the Wellington State of Project Management in 2021, and basically they were saying that 34% of organizations mostly are always complete projects at time. 34% of organizations mostly are always complete projects on budget, and 36% of organizations mostly are always deliver the full benefits of the projects, which is not a really good score. Now, there are no 100% guarantees for business projects to succeed, but we feel that the discovery phase will certainly increase the chances to create a high-level project and sustainable lower risk of a project failure. So too often people have the tendency to just dive straight into project delivery without actually taking on project discovery. And the basic reason for the discovery phase is to gather information about a project idea, helping people involved to understand its vision, goals, and scope, and also that the knowledge gained during this phase will help us to understand what's the highest business value and what are the key objectives that we're going to get. So if we were to think about what it really delivers is that we need to first of all understand the highest business value from a project. We secondly need to understand the defined benefits, risks, and assumptions. And then we really need to understand the needs of the various users and any stakeholders who are involved. And then we need to define the project scope, requirements, and timeline. We do this and we need this because it helps us determine business goals and project vision. It helps us build out the project architecture to achieve specific business goals. It helps us understand and mitigate against any development costs. And it helps us identify, downplay possible risks. But it also gives us a clear project development roadmap of what we need to do. But again, at the final thing, what it says to us is, do we actually do we continue with this discovery phase, or is this something that we don't need to do? And thinking about how it actually goes about benefiting us, by doing discovery and involving the people at the early stages, we can actually build out communication and trust between the stakeholders and teams. We can reduce the risk of missed deadlines and unexpected expenses. We can conduct in-depth market and competitor research to make it worthwhile for us to do, and we can form a deep understanding of the project's purpose. And at the end of the day, if we're thinking about what it's actually going to deliver to us and what we need to come out of it, we need to see the vision and scope of what this is about. So why are we doing the project? What's the functionality? How will we know when the project is ready or done? We need to understand team management. So how do we find the right people for the right project? Who are the important stakeholders? What are the potential obstacles? And then really at a high level, what the project plan and budget is. So what's the timeline? How are we going to manage the risks? What's the cost, etc. Okay, so now we've got to the stage whereby we have gone through our ideation phase, we've gone through our discovery phase, and in some instances, not in every organization, it's very hard to understand what could potentially be the best project methodology for us to deliver this project. So again, Ian, handing over to you again, I'm going to ask you guys to go to Mentimeter, and we're just going to ask a couple of questions in relation to the project management methodology that you potentially use in your organization. So again, menti.com, or if you can use the code 47144360, or you can use the QR code. So over to you, please, Ian. So just on to question one. Would you be able to say that your company uses a recognized project delivery methodology? Are you Prince2? Are you PMBOK? Are you Agile? Are you DevOps? Are you something? Okay. And yes is coming back in a large scale. And it's going to be interesting to see what way everybody delivers their projects. Maybe. In some instances, what actually happens in organizations that we've discovered over the years, that they've got a combination of methodologies and then they develop their own methodology. Okay, so it could be a little bit of lean, it could be a little bit of Six Sigma, it could be a little bit of critical chain, it could be a bit of agile, and then that becomes that organization's methodology. But as long as you have a recognized approach, that's really good. Ian, we'll go on to the next question, please. The overriding answer there was yes. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, and 5 being the highest, how mature do you feel your organization project delivery methodology is? Do you think you're rock stars, or do you think you're on the way to being rock stars in relation to project delivery? Yeah, mature and very mature is good. That's strong, really good. Okay, some level of maturity, mature, average, and average is in the middle. That's okay. And I think, is that the last question, Ian, is it?
One more.
One more. Okay, so I'm gonna simplify it. So in a way, a lot of project methodologies, I'm not going to say all, are broken into being planned or adaptive. So planned is waterfall, sequential, Prince2, PMBOK. Adaptive is more agile, DevOps. And then we've got that beautiful thing called hybrid, which is Wagile, which is a combination of both. And that can work too, but it can also be known as fragile, unfortunately. So the majority of people here at the moment would be saying that they are more adaptive than planned, which seems to be the way of the future. And a lot of people saying that they're a hybrid version. And we've seen that ourselves in a lot of organizations. Ian, that's very good. I'm going to go back now to sharing my deck, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So project delivery and project management methodologies. And hopefully you can all see my screen there. So on the project management methodologies, there's a multiple. And what we need to discuss here is what is the importance of a project management methodology? What are the popular types? How to choose the right one? And would you go planned or would you be adaptive? So we're at the phase now we're in delivery. And when we're in delivery, we need to know how we're going to go about that delivery module. So when we're looking at various different delivery methods and when we're looking at the popular types, I kind of broke it out by there's maybe 3 ways that you might want to look at this. You might want to look at it from the perspective of eliminating waste, your flexibility, and having a clearly defined path. And if you're trying to eliminate waste, you can pick a particular focus, whether that's Lean or Six Sigma. You could then potentially use a combination of both. If you're looking at a flexibility approach whereby your end goal is potentially unclear and you're not sure how you're going to deliver, you could look at the agile framework or using Scrum or Kanban, or there's lots of different versions within those frameworks. Or if you have a clearly defined path, your end goal is clear, you're happy with the waterfall methodology, you could dive into Prince2 or PMBOK. Now, choosing the right approach and the right methodology is also dependent on where you are in relation to your adaptability, your agility, and it's like a pendulum swing. And sometimes you can swing from being very plan-driven approaches to being kind of more iterative to being completely adaptive. And I'm not saying that it's mutually exclusive. And then in some cases, a hybrid approach can work as well. And we've seen it with organizations where they've gone from the portfolio view to then going into in a waterfall way to then managing a project delivery and software in a agile way, and then to finally trying to report on that again in a dashboard view. So again, when the evaluation of a project management methodology, you should include really the organizational capabilities, its readiness, and also understand the nature of the methodology. Some of them are designed for dynamic and fast delivery, while others require more stability and strict structure. And you could probably look at it from an internal point of view, from what way your organization is set up, the actual project itself, the people, the processes that you use and the technology, and whether you're going to focus is going to be on dynamics and speed, or speed and structure, or stability and structure, or dynamics and stability. And as I said, sometimes a hybrid version works. And again, just looking at it from a high level view, if we're being planned and predictive, for example, and you're looking at a waterfall sequential traditional approach, you're very plan driven, requirements are set early and at the beginning. You use analysis over discovery. Estimates are given upfront. Forecasting is based on upfront estimates. Requirements are treated as of or equal priority. And it's very formal and documented periodic communication. Whereas on the other side, in an agile fray, you're more adaptive, iterative, and it's an incremental approach. It's very planning driven because you're constantly planning. Requirements have to be flexible because change is welcomed. You use discovery over analysis. Estimates are constantly revised. Forecasts are driven by work already done and delivered. And requirements are prioritized by value to the business. And the communication is informal, verbal, and frequent. Okay, so we're at the stage in this where we've got the last key in our delivery piece and the last piece in our puzzle, which is the people side, right? And we're talking about a couple of different resource management models that might best fit your organization. And it's really important to think about this, is that getting the right people in the right jobs is a lot more important than developing a strategy. And we're at a point now where, let's imagine the journey we've been on, that we've actually decided on a project idea. We've completed discovery on the relevant ideas that we've selected. We've selected particular ideas that we want to go forward with. We decided on a methodology that suits all of us best and the whole organization and the project delivery. And we need the people now to deliver it. So as Franklin D. Roosevelt said, I'm not the smartest fellow in the world, but I can sure pick smart colleagues. And this is the important part for us. So maybe you have a full project team at your disposal. Maybe this project team has all the right skill sets for your unique project. And maybe they are all miraculously available right now and waiting for you to say go. Or maybe you don't. And in a lot of cases, that can be the situation. So there's a couple of different resourcing models that you could look at if you don't have this in your internal team. So you could look at team extension, staff augmentation, straightforward. You could look at managed teams, or you could look at a managed service approach. And team extension and staff augmentation is basically whereby your company hires extra people to help you supplement the existing team to complete a project. Straightforward, and everybody's fully aware of how that works. Then a managed team is a little bit different. It is a service that provides an all-in-one solution to businesses. So you've a team that comes in, and you know what, you don't have the resource, the expertise, but you bring them in. And then a managed service is whereby an external provider can assume the responsibility for managing and maintaining a particular part of a client's business operations. And just to take this a little bit further, so if we were looking at it as a breakdown and we looked at it from the basis of who provides consultants, the location, the pricing, and the ownership and responsibility, on the team extension staff augmentation piece, you're provided with consultants. They can be on-site or hybrid. It's usually done on time and materials or on a day rate, etc. And generally, the ownership or responsibility lies with the client, so you manage those particular people. A little bit different with a team and a managed team. You're given a team. It can be distributed on-site, hybrid. It's generally done on a fixed price approach. And then the managed team piece is done between the client and the provider. So there's an ownership between the two of you. But then on the last one, on the managed service, you're given multiple teams. They can be nearshore, offshore, and they're done basically on a value-based or other model where there's particular KPIs that you have to reach, and it's managed and the ownership is completely by the service provider. So irregardless of whatever resourcing model you're trying to do, there's some approaches and steps that you need to take in place. So you need a definition of exactly what the role is to help in your particular project. You need some level of a strong selection process to make sure that that's the right person that comes in. You need to have a bunch of resources put in front of you to make sure they match your requirements. There's an engagement model then with the people, and then you need to account manage and deal with those people as they go forward. So if we were to wrap it all up and to say, what is the whole concept of ideation to delivery? The first thing is that ideation is about creating valuable ideas and creating the environment for that to work. Discovery is about the analysis of those ideas and taking them to a point where we feel that they're going to give the best business value. Delivery is then being clear about the correct project management methodology that you use to deliver. And then finally, that you make sure that you've got the right people in place to deliver for you on time, each time. Guys, that's the end of the conversation, and what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into a little bit of a Q&A, and if you've any questions that you have, please throw them out there and we'll do our best to answer them.
Thanks, Damien. I'll just have a browse here to see what's coming in. Yeah, okay, so the first one, Damien, is what to do if the ideation phase is failed and the team doesn't have the motivation to set up a new ideation session. So basically, what to do if it fails and the team don't have the motivation for a new ideation session?
Yeah, so it's a tough question. So like it does depend on the organization, but like all good ideas, and ideation is a good idea, there will be an element of trial and error and understanding what suits your people and your business. And if at first don't succeed, I would always, and I'm okay with this, carry out a lessons learned, and you need to understand the root cause analysis of why it failed and why people aren't engaged, and to be open and honest about problems and issues. And then I would recommend take that forward and try again. Any other
Thank
questions,
you.
Ian?
Yeah. Next one is, how do I choose the ideal project ideation tool or method?
Okay, so it really does depend on the organization again, and it's going to be based on what we work on: people, process, and tools. So the approach should be easy for people to follow and then allow them to feel safe to contribute and engage with. The process should be simple and understandable and accessible, and everybody understands their roles and their outputs. And finally, the tools need not be very complex. They need to be easy and simple for them to engage in the entire process, and also with quick visualization of any results or progress.
Thank you. Next question, Damien. What would be a good example of a Wagile project?
So we've got an example of a Wagile project whereby we've got a portfolio of projects coming from a bank, whereby there's an IT component in those project deliveries, and they are waterfall in their planning and their development and their portfolio piece, and then the IT component that is within that project is then seen as agile, and therefore you've got that beautiful combination of Wagile.
Next question. What might be the key failure factors, Damien, for the discovery phase?
So I think the key failure factors is not having a structure of what exactly you want to do within discovery. So it's not allowing the scope of what exactly is covered. The people are not engaged. They don't believe in the process. Also, if there's poor senior management backing of this, it'll fall apart. Or the process being too cumbersome, right? So discovery should be light but right, okay? And discovery should be something that isn't going to take up a huge amount of time and people's energy. I'm conscious of time now, Ian, because we have a couple of things here. So we do have an attendee offer, which is that anybody who's attended, there's a free 30-minute project resource assessment consultation. So if you're looking to identify key resources or looking at particular projects and going, what people should I actually use in this? If you're interested, please contact stephen.hegarty@aspira.ie. And then also finally, we want to see if this was useful. We also want to see if there's other stuff that we should be doing. So again, if you use your phone, there's a QR code that you can use again, and it should bring you to a Microsoft form whereby you can give your feedback on this.
Damien, I think from Michael has asked a question, just the last question, I think, if we can just cover it from Michael's purpose.
Sure.
So the question was, what are the most effective ideation frameworks? Should there be a tangible reward for employees?
Yes, I believe a framework that would work is that everybody's clear about what their input means. The framework is clear that they know how to do it, that there is a reward-based structure for them, and that we can think of different KPIs in each case to say maybe the idea doesn't go to full end, but because we're getting great ideas and we're looking at contribution, likes, etc., different KPIs should be measured, and it should be definitely incentivized within an organization. And even the fact that if somebody comes up with a really good project idea, that they're actually given some level of contribution to delivering that project as well. So it doesn't always have to be monetary, but it can be career-based or it can be project-based.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all our questions, Damien. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Really thanks for your time. We really do want your feedback on anything else that you might be interested that we could actually come back with webinars. And again, thanks for everybody involved in this.